Thanks again and again and again for finding the time to be part of our package for today on Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. My name is Sonny Duke Okosun. A million apologies. We're slightly behind time due to some technical hitches, but we're good. We're glad to be with you on the program today. We'll go straight into a package. I'm sure you're familiar with the recent development in Ebonyi State, where a federal high court in Abuja declared the seat of the governor and his deputy vacant, as well as 16 members of the State House of Assembly calling on the PDP to find replacement. We understand that Ebonyi State Governor David Umahi has already made some representations at the appeals court. How that will pan out is not the subject of the discussion, but we're using that as a basis to look at frequent decamping, defection, cross-carpeting within political parties in Nigeria, its implication for our development, and why the judgment by the Federal High Court has become so significant. Let me quickly thank our panelists. Barrister Gentleman Amego is a veteran politician, public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We also have with us in the studio Roy Oribabo. Roy is a politician, he's also a civil activist. Thank you for joining us, Roy.
Thank you for having me.
Chief Abayomi Thomas, popularly called Chief A.B. Thomas, is a public affairs commentator, constitutional lawyer. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me here.
We also have another lawyer who incidentally is also a pastor, a reverend gentleman, Barrister Greg Iyayi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, viewers.
Okay, without wasting time, Barrister Amego, let me start off with you. How significant is this judgment, I mean, at the level of the Federal High Court as it relates to political parties, people moving from party A to party B here and there? I can't remember if you've ever done that.
You're not discussing me. Well, I don't know. I think, in summary, that the judge went too far. We don't know whether it will stand the test of time. It was greatest respect to the judge. Just said, oh, the vote of PDP carried the vote of PDP to APC. I don't think that is the reason, with greatest respect to that judge. The reason is that, does the law cover him to move from one party to the other? You see, it's a trite law that when there is crisis in a political party, in one political party, you have a right to decamp to the other party. I said, because there is crisis in that party, I now go to the other party. In this particular case, the governor saw in his own personal judgment that there was so much crisis in PDP, and then decided to go to a safe haven, to go to a greenhouse where he will find solace. But whether there is peace or no peace there is another argument. And so he decided to go, and it's covered by law, that you can leave one party to another when there is crisis in your own party. But the judgment was very moralistic, I think. So what we will try, we will go to higher court and find out whether the judgment can stand the test of that. Well, again, Mike quickly went to court to say, okay, nobody should remove him from office and all that. I don't also think that is right. Because between that court he went and the federal court, it is a coordinate jurisdiction that they both have. But even then, it's as a matter of course. Now that we have been had to go, you started the court and go to appeal, and it's a matter of course. The court will accept that we are appealing this case. Okay. And there was no need to run to another court. I don't, that's...
well, he has his right to seek redress, yeah.
He also has a right to say, I want to appeal. And the judge was because it's a matter of course.
Okay, let me proceed there. Roy, what are your perspectives? The action taken by, I mean, the judgment itself by the Federal High Court on not just the governor, but his deputy, and 16 legislators in the Ebonyi State House of Assembly.
Of course, I will be looking at it from as the voice of the commoner. I will be representing the commoner on this perspective. That over the 300,000 persons or 200,000 persons will just decide to vote for you. One single individual can multiply the votes. What happened to our morality? You just sit down, take a decision, you are not bothered about the 300 or something who voted for you. What is society are we building for our children? And you are aware that even if you go toward the position of Supreme Court over the years, they have demonstrated that a party, it is the party that is responsible for the vote that is cast. The records are there. Faleke, and you remember the late governor of, the former governor of Kogi State, Abubakar Audu. You can see the record when you go it and read that judgment. It was consistently stated by the Supreme Court that it is the party that is responsible for the vote. That was why they say, Faleke, you cannot just keep the let's nominate. And the party then nominated a candidate. You know, if you look at it, you remember Amechi issue, where they also say that it is not an individual thing. You know, when you look at all those things, you agree that it is good for our politics, it is good for our democracy, it's going to strengthen our political development. A situation where one individual, you just take a decision without records of those who labor for you, who mobilize vote for you, and you just mortgage it for your own personal interest. I think that is against common sense. Let us not even look at the law. Then take it from, let us not look at the law. But you know, something can do to this, all of us, as a parent here, we are sitting down, or a parent will not cook for all of us. All of us will not consume, let's cook for a parent. And a parent will not harass and say, so you do cruel, maybe so you go and sleep all day, you will not eat. These are the issues. Let's look at it. Okay. Now, what happened in Ebonyi State? I read the judge, and I said, this judge was no one is doing. It's commented. I will take the legal. Yes. Let me get
Barrister Ebonyi here. Let's get the legal analysis to this.
First judgment since 2020 that has gladdened my heart.
Why?
One, Nigerian politicians have been so immoral. About this, they are decamping. And when the Electoral Act provides for withdrawal of such politicians, they will, on their own, deliberately delay the withdrawal system. So this court judgment will act as a fine beginning that politicians cannot do whatever they like. Like everyone said, 370,000 people voted for you. And like my brother there, Abego say, Abego did not look at the fact that the Electoral Act says you can only decamp when there is a division.
Exactly.
Within a political party. Yes. And there was no division in Ebonyi State.
You can't say that.
The man left Ebonyi's PDP because he thought he could get presidential candidate, a presidential something from APC for the whole East, thinking that PDP, APC will zone presidency for the East, so he can come out and contest as the presidential candidate. That was the thing. There was never any division. Now, the judge was stupid. The judge looked at the facts before him. Judgment should be based on facts and the law, and just said there was no division in Ebonyi PDP. We're not talking of national PDP. It's the state where the governor was the leader of the party. There was no division. Then he coerced the last 16 members of the House of Assembly to join him. And those ones too, because they are looking for their stomach infrastructure, went and joined him without looking at the legal implication. Now, you go further. The Supreme Court, like Ribabo said, in Faleke against Bello and others, said it is the party that sponsors a candidate. Our Constitution and Electoral Act has no place for an individual candidate. So if the party sponsors you, the votes code are for the candidate, for the party, not for the individual. Because if you are talking of individual, it means you have to go and amend the Constitution and the Electoral Act to allow for independent candidacy, which is not what is in existence as of today.
Okay.
Then, if you go further and look at the Amechi's case, you will find the Supreme Court also says so, that it is the party that sponsors the candidate, is the party that determines, and therefore the votes cast were for the party. Fourthly, you find that in this judgment, the judge was careful not to have awarded the seats to PDP outrightly. He said, PDP nominate candidates. In the alternative, INEC conduct another election. He was so clever. This should put a full and final stop. You see, have the 2021 rules of the Court of Appeal, which allows the Court of Appeal to even abridge the time within which to file a brief of argument, or to even go ahead with the case, like what happened in Ladoja's case, when Ladoja was wrongfully impeached. The court can even go ahead without asking the parties to file brief and rely on what happened in the court to decide the merit of the case. I will plead with the Court of Appeal to sidetrack some of these rules, to quickly call the lawyers, come here. We agree, anybody who a lower court gives judgment against has the constitutional right to go on appeal. Yeah. That is true. You have exercised it. All of you come here. It was done in Benin here by the Court of Appeal when anybody was removed. And the court said, look, we are Court of Appeal. All of you come here. Tell us your story. We have the proceedings from the High Court. And they say, everybody go back to your seats. So I want the Court of Appeal with the division to call the lawyers next week. Okay. And I can assure you that it will stand the test of time, and it will also stand the test of time in Supreme Court. Unless you have been preemptive by saying Thomas. Let me proceed. I am talking as a lawyer. I know. Based on the facts and the legal decisions available. Let me proceed. Barrister Greg, let's get your take on this. I've also read a piece written by a senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Mike Ozekwe, who also came forth to say that yes, the judge had the reasons why he gave the judgment in that direction, but there are relevant instances where judgments have been given that the vote does not belong to the political party, but it belongs to the candidate. So how relevant is that to this conversation?
I think this is a novel case.
What makes it novel?
It's novel in the sense of the judgment given by the courts.
Okay.
No such judgment actually has been given before. And if it stands and it goes up to the Supreme Court and it stands, then it will be a locus classicus. So what we are saying is that the judge actually issued a probing dictate. Because if you read the ratio decidendi, the reasons for the judgment, he said the votes, and I agree with my other panelists, they belong to the party. They do not belong to the candidates. Because like the learned senior here has said, individual candidacy has not been statutorily recognized. But again, we look at the article case. The court said, as a chief executive, he enjoyed the rights of movement from one party to the other. And nothing has, that case is still an authority. But the Supreme Court has the power to reverse itself. And if this case goes up to the Supreme Court and it stands, but we must commend the judge, because the judge has started a judicial conversation. He has started a conversation in the political space that, look, can somebody aggregate to himself the mandates given to him by so many people, and they decide to dispense of the benefit, to dispense of that mandate and retain the benefit? Because the issue is between the mandate you were given and then the benefit of that mandate. You cannot dispense of the mandate and then you retain the benefit of the mandate. So I think it's something that we'll have to watch. We'll watch carefully. But I'm gladdened about it. I'm gladdened about it because it is going to bring some discipline, some sanity, some restraints, and unbridled ambition of many of our politicians. Okay. Just roaming from
just so that I'll come back to you. Yeah, Ambassador. I'll come to you.
What he said, so I don't forget.
You don't forget, I'll come to you.
Let me just say, I'm glad that Ebi Thomas said when there is crisis in a particular party,
Is it at the determination of the president, of the governor, or it exists in reality?
Reality. That's what you ask.
Okay, Mr. Mego.
The center cannot hold.
Center.
When the center cannot hold, things will fall apart.
Definitely.
So Ebonyi is a part of this country. There is crisis in PDP all over the country. Forget about Ebonyi. And even in Ebonyi, there's still crisis. When the center is shaking, what do we expect the man to do? And more so, it is speculative to argue that the man wants to run for presidency. Has he told you that? Have you seen his posters?
No, with the president. No.
Even with the president.
What?
No, Mr. Mego,
He has not said so.
I ask a question.
There are people who are speculating that he wants to run for presidency. But let him address us that he wants to run for the position of the chief executive of this country. But he hasn't said so. That's why we should not be preemptive about it.
Okay. Who determines that there is a crisis in the political party?
You and I.
So you can decide that there's a crisis in the party and then you take a decision of the campaign.
Yes, of course. If you say that you cannot stand the crisis in that particular political party, you exist.
Okay, let me come to you.
Yourself.
I mean, we're just maybe some analysts have said that the beauty of this judgment is that it will cure indiscipline in our political party, because the only level we haven't seen a defection is maybe the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's really what we have not seen. For governors, I mean, it's a commonplace. I take it from that.
You know, I think that's the reason why some of us will continue to salute this judge. You know, to me, this is a judicial activism. I will not encourage this judge. There is a high level of rascality in our political development that a single individual can just take a decision without regard to the people who elected him. Unless they are telling us that there was a spiritual political misunderstanding that some of us are not aware of. The records are there. There have never been any division in Ebonyi PDP. They have never been there, unless they want to tell you it was spiritual. I don't need to come from Ebonyi to know I don't every state in Nigeria. I can conveniently give you all the states in Nigeria, the political history. I can conveniently give you now. I don't need to come from Delta to know what's going on. I don't need to come from Boruna to tell you what is going on. I don't need to go to Asoroka to know that Buhari is not in Nigeria. You know, these are there. We monitor news every day. We get information. You know, what the Ebonyi State governor, what he should do if I were him, if it is impossible, he can quickly run back to his political party. I think that is the only solution.
That's the madness on his part.
Over the years, that is what has happened. That is the rascality.
He's a politician.
He's a politician. What he just need to do is for him to tell the world that, you know, I'm coming back to home. I'm coming back to my family. As a prodigal son, I'm back. I think the PDP and the restructured PDP I know can conveniently receive.
See, you mentioned the article written by my very respected senior advocate.
Yes.
As a comment. As a comment did not avert his mind to the Faleke case in Kogi State. If it were to be otherwise, that an individual is the owner of the vote cast, then there would have been no need substituting a dead man in Kogi State. People should look avert their minds that.
Okay.
Yeah. But the court was emphatic that you will have to substitute the dead man with another person from his party. That is a simple, logical reasoning that vote was even carried forward. For another person from that vote party to contest, which means the votes belong to the party and not to the individual. Another point I would like to raise, when we are talking about elections in the country, we are not talking about the spare tire. We are talking of the main man, the main person who is contesting.
The main candidate.
The main candidate, not the deputy. Because once the main candidate is affected by a virus, and in quote, political virus, that political virus will affect every other person that follows him in that state. And that was the reason why the governor of the state who led the decamping. If the governor had not decamped, and the deputy governor decamped, the judgment would have been otherwise. It would have been removed the governor. But the governor decamped. And he is the main candidate, or he was the main candidate in the election. And the vice followed him, and the 16 legislators followed him.
Yes.
That is why that virus is following all of them. Now, if you look forward to this, look, I'm not from Ebonyi State.
Exactly.
I am not from Edo State. I'm not from Abeokuta, Enugu State. But I know what happens in every part of the country. So we should not just sit down here and say we are speculating. When the law says no political office holder shall jump into another political party except there is a division in that party, it is well known even between his own party, APC, his own party. We all know that in his own party, the governor of that state, who if he's an APC man, he is the leader of that party.
Yeah. Not in my party. Not in my party.
Your chairman is not.
It's only in PDP.
Your chairman is not the leader.
The president is not the leader of our party.
The president of Nigeria is the leader of APC.
It's not.
Now,
it's not. You don't have to. It's not.
So you do ask a question. Who decides a division?
A crisis.
If there is a crisis, it can't be me and you. I'm not with you. Because if there is a division, there is crisis in the home. You know there is a crisis. The leader of the house is the one who decides crisis in his house. If the governor of a state can unilaterally swallow on his own, begin to say, I am jumping from party A to party B. If we allow it to continue, this political rascality that has been happening in Nigeria, that even led to the 1966 crisis and 64, 65 crisis in Western region, which eventually snowballed into the Civil War. We don't want it again in this country.
Okay, all right. Let me proceed. Pastor Greg,
yes.
Yeah, you want to lap up on that in terms of if this judgment were to stand as it is now, the impact it will have on our political, particularly at a time that we're moving close to 2023, and I'm very sure that
some will lose in some primaries.
Yes,
and then they will want to jump.
And they will cite the primary as a reason, as a crisis, as a division to move.
Candidly speaking, I don't think there was any crisis. There will always be disagreement, but the disagreement does not lead to the kind of crisis that the Constitution envisaged. And it wasn't there. It was his personal choice. And we are not here to guess his reasons, just as you have said. But whatever it is, what he did was unconstitutional. That is what we are very concerned about. Because it's like a painter using the ladder he's painting. What this judge has done. He said you cannot be painting and then you kick away the ladder that took you there. And then you want to substitute it with another ladder. He said, no, if you decide to dispense of that ladder, you will come down. And however you land is... it will bring some bit of sanity.
Of course.
And then fidelity. There should be loyalty. Let's look at the United States, for instance. People lose in the primaries and they stay, they build, they help the other people. Trump was the most unwanted man among the Republicans. But when he won, people, whether they liked the way he came or not, they stood by him and he won the election. Yeah. So we are maturing. This judgment is going to spark some political thought, and we want it.
Okay.
It's interesting.
No, excuse me, sir.
Just a moment,
We are getting there. This is a very topical matter that we are discussing.
Yeah.
And I want you to bring all of us back after
Supreme Court
tested.
This matter before. Okay,
I'm very confused. We are not talking on morals.
No.
On morality, the man is wrong.
Okay.
But I'm talking of law. My last senior is here. He knows I'm talking of law. There is crisis.
I am talking of law.
There is crisis in APC. But when the center can hold, things must fall apart.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. Thank you.
And you should put out the corner of your judgment.
I beg you, it's 3-1.
No,
If you just join us, it's Politics Today on independent television and radio. On the program, we're looking at defections in political parties and how we can curb it using the Ebonyi State judgment, a judgment by the Federal High Court in Abuja on Ebonyi State Governor and Deputy Governor and 16 other legislators. Well, in the amendment of the Constitution, the National Assembly has also provided an opportunity for this issue to be tackled constitutionally. If you make a defection, you lose your seat. If you make a defection, you lose your position. That, in a sense, will help to clear all of these abnormalities that we have in our political space. As is always the case, in the next 15 minutes, our studio line will be open so you can call and be part of the discussion. Please, when you do call, endeavor to ensure that your contribution is brief and is straight to the point, and you do not cast aspersion on anyone, whether in the studio here or outside the studio. Please try as much as possible to stay on the issues. Yeah, the amendment of the Constitution has taken care of this matter, Barrister Mego. Yeah, you want to say something about that?
I'm not talking of the amendment now, but I'm just talking of the board.
Yes.
But the amendment, okay, we'll see how it is operational, how operational it will be. But let me correct an impression here with A.B. Thomas. Please, sir, our party, APC, the president is not the head of our party. And at the state level, the governor is not the head of our party. Barrister
Mego, you are triggering, just a moment, you are triggering another conversation. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
You're saying Mr. President is not the head of the party.
Yes.
We can recall how the president, I don't even know the need to call the present leadership of the party at the national level right now. And then just a few days ago, some described it as a palace coup. I don't know if they are correct. The governor of Niger State emerged as the pro tem acting, I don't know what to call it, but as the head chief. Okay.
Bumi has written a letter.
Yes. Now INEC is saying we do not recognize the leadership of. Okay, because the constitutional provision has not been followed. Let me allow Roy to make a comment on this. Because we're talking about law, we're talking about constitutionality, yeah.
The issue about this country, I keep on saying, who are we as a people? What do we believe? We are Nigerians. Therefore, Nigeria is the only country where people will eat their cake and they want to have it. You know, you saw it very just where one traditional ruler, he said because the plague did not wait for him, it's an issue. Why the Queen of England, so because she was lived with 2 million, she was ashamed to say, I want to travel again. That is the society we follow ourselves. Do you need a law to even do this? In a civilized country, what is going on? Do you need to be regulated? If you are with somebody or people who elected you, go and represent them, why will you go to a road and just mortgage it? The constitution we are coming from, the amendment, I'm also in support. What we need in Nigeria is that, well, let there be sanity in our political life. Let there be that sense of maturity. Let there be integrity. We cannot just you not say you are a politician. People look you in one eye because there is high level of inconsistency that reigns within the political class. You cannot rely on them. If they issue a statement in the morning that we are not moving, in the afternoon they are moving. You can recall in this state where a commissioner was under 24 hours was in 2 different political parties in this town. In the morning, she went on an election in a campaign down in Europe. We tell them I'm with my leader. In the evening, we saw her in Akoko Edo campaigning for another political party. That will tell you the high level of rascality that have surrounded our politics over the years. What do we need? We need proper regulation. Okay. So that people that are good, who have integrity, will want to invest in politics.
Myself, Thomas, you want to lap up on that?
Well, what is in my mind is to discuss on this issue of only in APC and the man at the NX says...
It still borders on the Constitution, the Act and the law, yeah.
Good. I stand on the Constitution.
I do too.
What APC is doing, whether Bunio or Niger State person, what they are doing is unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional. They are enjoying it now. Let everyone conduct their primaries and go to election. Buni shouldn't even be there as technical chairman. Because the constitution is clear and it says no elected politician into an executive position shall hold any other political office. It says in the constitution. If I had known I would be asking this question, I would have brought the constitution to read it out. But constitutionally, they made Buni a technical committee chairman.
Is that an executive position?
Of course, Buni is an executive governor.
Okay, the political position, executive position.
It's an executive position too.
It is not.
Excuse me. It's a political executive position.
It's not.
It is. Because temporary executive.
Governor is temporary. Not being a governor is not temporary.
See, as a governor, he is not supposed to hold any other political position as a governor.
Even a committee
Then,
member.
now, you have created another constitutionality by creating another constitutional action by bringing the United States governor by the name Bello. This is a constitutionality on top of a constitutionality. But that is a headache. I'm not a politician.
Exactly.
Because since I'm not a politician, but as a lawyer, if I don't even handle political cases. Otherwise, if somebody comes to me,
You don't want money.
I'm okay with my life the way I am. If somebody comes to me, that is the point I will take. Because a man who is holding a position unconstitutionally cannot organize a primary that will produce a constitutional candidate. It's not possible.
Okay. All right. Mr. Craig, let's get your perspectives on this a little bit.
You see, judicial activism has always led to some sanity in the polity. When slave trades could not be defeated, a magistrate was the one, James Mansfield, who gave a judgment that any slave that sets his feet on English soil was going to become free. William Wilberforce, Clarkson, and the other abolitionist party, they were fighting it in parliament. But this judicial activism gave it what? A vote. And before you know it, it was passed in parliament. That's how slave trade came to an end. The Landmark Civil Rights Act, they were actually provoked by a judgment that was given by constitutional courts. So I think what is going to happen is that there will be some bit of discipline and sanity.
Of course.
And then it is very good for us all, whether in APC, PDP, that before the custodian of a mandate thinks of running away, jumping ship, that he will think twice. He will think of the consequences. And when he knows that he's going to lose his office, lose all the perks, lose all the things that go with it, he might decide to just stay where he is. Because stay in your house and solve the problem there. Whatever it takes to solve a problem is domiciled in the members of the party. So don't think you can just jump ship and go
If I
elsewhere.
could just add to your own.
Yes.
You see, Nigerians, when I hear that Nigerians die in the Mediterranean Sea, I let say, may their soul rest in peace. When I fly and the plane goes below 33 or 37,000 feet above the sea level, and you begin to see these people along the Sahara Desert, I shake my head. We are running away from Nigeria to better countries. Those countries you are running to, people repair them. Why don't you repair your party? Assuming there's even conflict in your party, why don't you repair your party? It is in Nigeria here. They share money in PDP. It is not shared well. You run to APC. If they share money in APC, the money is not shared well. You run to PDP. Tell me who are those in APC? Apart from Gulaya Onu and a few others from ANPP, they are PDP. So judgment must go on. The constitutional amendment, you go on. But the Electoral Act is definite on it. It says you cannot jump from a political party to another party unless a division. And that division is not to be decided by the governor. You can't decide it. If you are a judge in law, we say, Nibo Judas in Kasaswa. Nibo Judas in Kasaswa. You cannot be a judge in your case. If a governor is allowed to decide, there's a division in my party because Amego has disagreed with me. Then that is it. We will not. You see, I cannot go and vote for you because you have told me you will do A, B, C, D. Then tomorrow you jump from there to another party. I am the loser. The electorate is the loser. Nigeria can never progress. In fact, we should amend the constitution that whoever jumps a party, when there is no division, should spend 55 years in prison. So at least people will know that it is not always stomach infrastructure. Because there are people who vote, you kill under the sun to go and vote. And because of your personal ambition, you will start saying, oh, I am the one who decide there's a division here. Okay. You have the right to approach the court. You go to court. There's a crisis in my party. I want this court to decide that there's a division.
Before you embark on
this your back journey. Not for you to just sit down.
Okay, but I'm not going to ask Michi to say something.
I mean, my colleagues are very, very moralistic.
This is not I'm talking law.
We are talking law. We are talking law. We are not talking of whether it was right or wrong.
I mentioned electoral act. Is it a lie of God?
That's argument for another day. Who determines the classes, are there classes? That's another argument. We will take a whole day. But we are saying what the judge has done, is it right or wrong?
It's right.
And I am of the opinion that it is wrong on the face of law. We shall get it tested when we go to appeal court or get to Supreme Court. There are certain examples with what do you call this, Bello, and those ones were not sworn in. You can't compare that with Ebonyi matter. Ebonyi matter, let me remind you, sir, he was also the head of the party in Ebonyi State. If a head can decide to abandon his people in midway, then you know that there is actually crisis. If he says something and they did not obey him, you are leaving a party where you are the head to go to a party where you will not be the head. The people should listen to such a man. That's my argument. So we will test it. We can't finish it. We will test it.
For now, that judgment holds till it is set aside.
Exactly.
Because the law is what the court says it is. And if the court has decided for now that this is the law, and we should all wait till when it is set aside.
Okay. If you just join us, it's still Politics Today on independent television and radio. As usual, it's time for you to be part of the discussion. Our studio line 052-290573. Dial the number, tell us your name, where you're calling from, and then go ahead with your contribution. Now, before the court starts calling by Stephen Thomas, what is Governor David Umahi and the 17 others now? What are they supposed to be doing now? With this judgment?
Let me say something. As at this moment, maybe I'm behind the news. No court in Nigeria from the constitution can stop a man that a lower court has removed from leaving that office. You leave. You vacate. Unless a superior court grants a stay of execution. That's why I said unless if I'm behind the news. Okay. As of today, I am not aware, others may be aware, that there is a stay of execution. Because a notice of appeal is an intention to appeal. It does not stop the judgment of the lower court from being executed. You see, one of the things I hate about these politicians is that they want people like us to obey court judgments. But because they are surrounded by member policemen, DSS, and other things, they don't want to obey court judgments. This is why I hate about these politicians. What does it cost you, Umahi? Assuming that there is no stay of execution, leave that office temporarily. After all, he himself will ask the civil servant to go home, that there is an indictment against you, pending when court pronounces. The proper thing is go home. The judgment is say forthwith. Don't collect yourself as governor. Forthwith. You go home.
Well, you know, by Stephen Thomas, within the context of Nigeria, temporary to become permanent within a matter of minutes or days or hours.
That was why I said the court of by the rules of the Court of Appeal, and by the rules of the Supreme Court, they are empowered to hear matters without even briefs of arguments.
Okay, let's open the studio line. Good morning, caller. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from. Go ahead with your contribution. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Mr. Sonia.
Yes, good morning. What's your name?
Okay, this is Mr. Matthew Amos.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to salute the judge that gave that judgment, sacking Ebonyi, his deputy and other 60 members of the State House of Assembly. As you know, there was never any crisis unless that is a gentleman member who tell us the kind of crisis there was in Ebonyi. He never told us. Like when Obaseki was in APC in Benin, we knew the crisis we had in APC in Benin or in Edo State. There was never such in Ebonyi State where the governor would say he's running to another party. I don't forget the party is running to. There's also crisis there. So what's this mean? So I think the courage of the judge that passed that judgment should be applauded. Now, look at what we have in Edo State, for instance. The governor left APC to PDP, and now there is crisis in PDP, brought by the governor. Now you want to run away, destroy the structure of the party, and then you abandon them like that, you run to another party. So, for me, it's going to be a revolution. When the Supreme Court will also address this judgment of the law.
Okay,
so
that's if and when that happens.
Yes.
For now, that hasn't happened.
I think for record purpose, the last man who come will also correct that question. The governor is not running away from his party.
Okay, let's take the rest.
I don't say governor.
Good morning, caller. What's your name? Good morning. What's your name and where you calling us from?
Good morning. My name is
Dr. Open Secret. The radio. Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Open Secret.
Thank you very much. I think if it were possible, that federal high court judge to be immortalized, who are still alive. You should even wait the Supreme Court judgment because the judges have just been bold enough to express the mind of all Nigerians over the years. If this judgment is supported and is allowed to stand, which I know it stands, it will at least help us to sanitize the rascality of our chief executive. You can even hear our deputy governors about the expecting that they will leave the party, the governor will leave the party. Because they know that as they are living, as anywhere they go, they are governors, they are deputy governors. That's why you can see the governor who becomes a party can begin to address the people in the party that if you don't want to follow my leadership, leave this party for me. Where is that done? You know that they were almost lynching your party. They brought you in here, you're not telling them they should leave the party for me. Because if they leave the camp, that party is the camp with the so we should not allow judgment to be swept under the carpet. We must uphold it and ensure that sanity is brought into the system. Because of time, I thank you, the barrister. David Thomas has always been our idol right from Abusali University. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, Dr. Opusika, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, good morning. Tell us your name and where you call us.
Okay, I'm Engineer Ben from the bypass, sir.
Okay, Engineer Clem, please go ahead.
This discussion has been going on for about 3 days or so. I've been following it.
Yes.
But the discussion there, yes, your panel there, I want to ask them 3 questions. One, is it necessary to decamp from party to another in Nigeria? Number 2, what happened to the immunity clause that the Nigerian constitution put on the governor and the presidency? Has it been revisited? I mean, there was recent political, that's the amendment they made. Have they touched that area? Because we should follow the truth. Not talk about what our interest. The truth is that these people have immunity, which have never been touched. Who Nigerians is not what to discuss to. Not that they're happy with what they are doing, but they have made it not to protect themselves. So let's face the fact. How many people have cross-carpet since 1999 to now? You can't count them. So that's this problem now. They just use it to make us to forget the problem we are at now. What we are at now is more than cross-carpeting. We should face the real truth.
All right. When you started, you told us you want to ask 3 questions. I only got 1 or 2. Yes, Vice President was also respond to the issue of immunity clause for Dave Umahi and his deputy, but that statement doesn't apply.
The immunity clause does not apply to this case.
Yes.
It is a criminal proceedings against the executive. Okay. It does not apply to this case. Then as to the first question he asked, that whether Umahi is the first person
to decamp.
the judiciary in Nigeria is not an investigative arm. Judiciary cannot, on its own, prosecute anybody. If you bring a case before the judiciary, they pronounce on it. Okay. Nobody has brought this kind of case before, so it's a test case.
Okay. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? It's Politics Today. Please turn down the level on your television or radio. Good morning. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? Okay. 052290573. That's our studio. Good morning. Good morning. Yes. Good morning. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Mr. Nigeria.
All right. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I salute the courage of all your guests today.
Okay.
And they have spoken our minds. And to add to it, you know, first, most of our politicians don't have the integrity. For me, it should be a simple thing for me if I go to my friend to ask for money. If that person refuses, I will be ashamed of myself. What am I trying to explain? You see, our political leaders, they do something and get away with it because the society are applauding them. When you move from one party to another, that's what the demand is. It was the party to him, not him alone. The party voted him. When people were saying comparing it with our governor, no, our governor campaigned with PDP, but PDP voted for him and left with the votes to the APC. We shall not be courage, and we shall not be courage of the judge, and we have to give him credit for that. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll just take another call. We're back to the studio to this conversations on the discussion today. Yes, good morning. What's your name?
It's David. I'm calling from Benin.
Dave, please go ahead.
I think that judgment is a very sound judgment.
Is what?
I said the judgment is a very sound judgment. It's a clear judgment. You understand? Citing an example of a ladder and the penta and the ladder. You understand? Because the problem we have is the understanding of the Constitution, understanding of the law. The Constitution has become a Bible to some people with different interpretations, different, doctrines. And it's wrong. The law is there. You understand? Because me, I'm not a lawyer. Since 1999, I have been saying it. This decoupling of a thing is wrong. How can I go and vote for you under one party? I will stay inside the sun and vote for you in the same party there. In the middle of the game, you will not decamp to another party. It's wrong.
All right, thank you.
Do you understand?
Yeah, thank you.
It's wrong because if you decamp, you are not good.
Yeah.
Before, this party is the first organ that can say, okay, this government is performing or is not performing. You cannot rubbish the party, and because you know you decamp, you go to the other party because you rubbish the party. It's wrong.
All right, let's proceed there because out of time.
To put a check to this government is the party.
Thank you.
You can't rubbish their agenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand that?
Absolutely. All right.
Because you
Yeah,
can't
we're coming to wrap now, Mr. Mego. Let's look at this issue. Someone mentioned that since 1999 to date, this has become a practice amongst our politicians. And even though we recognize that it's not helping the development of democratic practice in Nigeria, it has become a constant factor that we see. Is this something we should encourage? No, Pastor Ahmed, is this something we should encourage?
Because it is allowed by law. Okay. If it wasn't allowed by law, nobody would be doing it. And in any case, what I want to say is unfortunate that in Nigeria, people just believe that politicians are liars, politicians are fraudulent, they hate politicians. Even your mother at home will hate it. It is very unfortunate. Not all of us are bad as that.
Of course.
If you see learned people too, you know, they hate politicians. I cannot be a politician.
We don't hate
you. You to be a politician. They just are ruling you. And then you accept your government.
We need to change that mindset.
Exactly. If you know that politicians are bad, come at yourself and bring sanity. The disaster. So, where we are
let me
in a
just take
situation where we are not liked, situation where we are hated, then you cannot put forth your argument.
Okay, Barrister UN Osawagia, you're live on the program. Please go ahead quickly. We're out of time. 1 minute, please.
I just quickly want to say, because it's like we have forgotten, that the reason Umahi gave for defecting is that the PDP has been unfair to the East because they did not have never considered the issue of...
But does that translate to a crisis? UN Osawagia, that the PDP is so unfair to the East, does that translate to crisis?
Of course.
No, that's the point I'm making. The point I'm making is not because of crisis, but because the PDP has been unfair to the people of the East by zoning the presidency to the East. It was not because there was a division, it was not because of crisis.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
Thank you very much,
It's marginalized.
Yes.
If a particular area is marginalized, it's official for me.
Is that a crisis?
Is that a crisis?
When the policy, the theory of society was formulated by Thomas Hobbes, he envisaged a situation like that. That is why he gave room to the judicial. That human beings naturally want to be deviant, but there must be a tool, a mechanism to regulate, and that was what gave birth to the judiciary. You know, what has been happening in Nigeria since 1999 has been a political aberration. And we cannot continue to allow it to trend. And that's the reason why I so salute this judgment. Okay. Shall we continue in senses at the base Maraba? God forbid. God forbid.
There was no conflict in PDP in Ebonyi State. The judgment is sound, and I urge the Supreme Court of Appeal to uphold it.
All right, so Barrister Greg.
Our hope is that this will bring
sanity,
sanity to the polity and among politicians. And we are
You started this argument.
That's our program for today. We added some value and some weekend to our platform, Politics Today, independent television and radio. We must continue to work to improve things, make things better in terms of the provisions of the law and its application in different facets of our society so we can move this country forward. We'll be back here next week, Saturday, God willing, for a fresh edition of the program. See you there, stay blessed. Big thanks to all our panelists for making the show a huge success. Bye for now.
There's a new concept.